I don't even know why I'm typing this. My hands are shaking and my chest feels like somebody parked a truck on it. I'm a young man from Atlanta, born and raised on the South Side, the kind who has taught you handle your business quietly and keep your family business off the internet. But tonight I'm sitting in my car outside a Kroger at 1:17 a.m. because I don't have the keys to the house I pay for. And the worst part isn't the cold. It's hearing her laugh earlier, my wife. Like I was a joke she couldn't wait to tell. We met in 2016 at a Juneteenth block party over by Cascade. She had on yellow sundress energy and a smile that made strangers start acting like cousins. I was the yes ma'am dude carrying folding chairs, trying to be helpful because my mama raised me right. I cracked a corny joke about the DJ playing the same Frankie Beverly song twice, and she laughed so hard she snorted, then got mad at herself for snorting and laughed again. That's how it started. Joy, teasing, shoulder bumps, and her calling me old man because I wore New Balances unironically. Our first real date was at a little spot in Midtown where the waiter kept calling me boss, like we were in a music video. She teased me for being polite. Why are you saying thank you so much? He not your uncle. I told her I'm not rude, I'm consistent. She said she liked that word, consistent. And I remember thinking, finally, somebody who wants peace. We took pictures by the Beltline, and she leaned into me like she belonged there. She did this thing where she'd grab my hand and swing it like we were kids, laughing at nothing. When we got married in a small church in Decatur, my aunties cried like we'd won a championship. Her family from Baltimore flew in wearing matching outfits like a traveling choir. Her mother, Ms. Loretta, hugged me long, then whispered, "Take care of my baby." I meant it when I said I would. I got a better job with a logistics company near Hartsfield-Jackson, worked my way up to operations lead, and carried the weight because that's what men in my family do. We bought a modest house in Lithonia, and I thought we were building. The funny part stayed for a while, like when she tried cooking TikTok pasta and nearly started a small kitchen fire, then blamed my negative energy for the smoke alarm going off. Or when she got mad that I folded towels like a hotel, and I told her, well, I'm a luxury man. She'd roll her eyes but smile, then climb in my lap like she forgot she was annoyed. We danced in the living room to old-school Mary J. Blige, and she'd sing off-key on purpose just to make me laugh. Then her sister moved temporarily into our guest room after a breakup in Maryland. Temporary turned into months. Her sister, Tasha, talked like life was always happening to her, and she was never responsible. She'd eat my cereal, borrow my car without asking, and call me tight because I asked where the gas went. My wife would defend her like a lawyer. She's going through something. Meanwhile, I was going through something too, being disrespected in my own house. But apparently that didn't count as something. I tried to keep the peace because I love my wife and I believe family meant patience. Around that same time, my wife started saying provider like it was my job title, not my role in a partnership. If I came home tired, she'd say, "You think you the only one stressed?" If I asked for quiet, she'd say, "You ain't the only one living here." The warmth got replaced with little jabs, like she was sharpening herself on me. She started sharing her arguments with her people on FaceTime, loud, so everybody could hear. I'd be in the background like a shadow, hearing my name tossed around like a meme. And still I tried. The first time she called me useless, it wasn't even during a big fight. I had forgotten to pick up oat milk. Oat milk. She looked at the empty fridge shelf like it was evidence of crime. "You had one job," she said, and I laughed because I thought she was playing. She didn't laugh back. "Sometimes you're really useless," she said, casual, like she was commenting on the weather. My stomach dropped. She saw my face and shrugged. "Don't be sensitive." Like respect was a luxury item I couldn't afford. I told myself it was stress talking. I kept going. Things got darker after her mother started visiting more. Ms. Loretta came down from Baltimore and acted like my house was a hotel with complaints included. "Why are couches so cheap? Why you work so much? You sure you happy, baby?" She'd say it right in front of me like I was invisible. My wife would sit there nodding like she was taking notes. Then she'd turn around and repeat Ms. Loretta's words to me like a verdict. "You don't make me feel taken care of." Meanwhile, the mortgage was on auto pay from my account, groceries on my card, and her sister was still temporary in my guest room. The humiliation turned into entertainment for them. My wife and her family started treating me like the punchline at every gathering. Thanksgiving in Stone Mountain, her auntie joked, "He probably can't even carve the turkey right." Everybody laughed. I carved it fine, but my hand shook anyway. At a cookout in Douglasville, her cousin said, "Man, you so quiet, you ain't got no backbone." My wife laughed the loudest, leaning into the joke like she needed the audience. I remember staring at the grill smoke, wishing it could cover my face. One night in December, I came home early to surprise her with a weekend trip idea. Savannah, a small hotel, just us. I had a goofy card with a doodle of us holding hands like stick figures. I walked in and heard her on the phone in the kitchen. "He can't even plan nothing," she said. And then, this part still hurts. If I didn't push him, he'd be nothing. I stood there holding that card like an idiot. She turned, saw me, didn't even flinch. "Oh, you home?" she said like I was a delivery. Then she took the card and said, "This childish," and tossed it on the counter. I tried therapy. I tried praying harder. I tried cooking more, cleaning more, speaking softer, speaking firmer, staying out of the way, being present. None of it mattered because the goalpost wasn't moving. It was disappearing. She wanted power, not peace. At work, I was respected. My team listened when I spoke. At home, I was a doormat with a paycheck. And the worst part was how easy it was for her. Like disrespect took zero effort. Like she'd been waiting for a chance to look down on me and finally got a ladder. The romantic moments didn't stop completely, which almost made it worse. She'd be cruel for days, then sweet out of nowhere, like she was tossing me crumbs to keep me from leaving. She'd crawl into bed and rub my chest and say, "You know I love you." I'd want to believe her so bad that I'd let my guard down. We'd have a good night, laughing old R&B, her joking that my dance moves looked like a dad trying not to pull a hamstring. Then the next morning she'd snap at me for breathing too loud. It messed with my mind like emotional whiplash. The abandonment wasn't just emotional. Financially, she started making moves without me. I noticed money missing from our joint savings. When I asked, she said, "I needed it," like that explained everything. I found out she'd been sending cash to her sister and her mom, paying their bills like my marriage was a family group project. I confronted her calm as I could. She stared at me and said, "So what? You the husband." Her eyes were flat. No guilt, no apology. Then she said something I'll never forget. "If you can't handle it, just say you broke." Like my sacrifice was a joke. The real betrayal hit in March. I got an alert from my bank about a credit inquiry. My stomach went cold. I checked, and there were 2 new cards open in my name. One store card, one high-limit card. Both had balances already. I confronted her again, and she didn't deny it. "I did what I had to do," she said, chewing gum like she was bored. The house needed things. The things included a designer purse, a weekend in Miami with her friends, and a set of lashes that cost more than my first car payment. She told me I was overreacting and said, "Stop acting like a victim." I started sleeping in my own guest room, the one her sister was supposed to be in, but she moved out once she found a new man in Houston. She left without paying us back a dime. My wife didn't care. She was too busy acting single while married. She'd come home, late smelling like hookah lounge smoke and perfume, talking about girls' night. When I asked where she'd been, she'd laugh and say, "Why, you my daddy." Then she'd post pictures in a tight dress with captions about soft life. Meanwhile, I was stressed life, anxious life, can't sleep life. The lowest point was her family reunion in Baltimore that summer. We drove up, and I tried to be hopeful. Maybe being around family would remind her we're a unit. On the first night, at her mama's row house, everybody packed into the living room like a comedy club. Her uncle asked what I did for work, and before I could answer, she cut in, "He'd just be at that job. You know men." Laughter. Then her cousin said something about husbands being helpful, and my wife said loud, "Mine? He's useless. I swear." Like having an extra child. Everybody laughed harder. I felt my face burn. I looked around for one friendly face. None. Even Ms. Loretta smiled like she was proud. My wife saw me sitting stiff and said, "Ah, look at him pouting." She put a hand on my shoulder like she was petting a dog and said, "You all right, big fella?" That broke something in me. I excused myself to the bathroom and stared at myself in the mirror. I didn't look like a man. I looked like a person who forgot he mattered. I texted my best friend, Malik from DC. "I think I'm done." He replied, "Then be done." When we got back to Atlanta, she acted like nothing happened. Like humiliation was just background music. I started gathering myself quietly. Not dramatic, not angry yelling, just silent clarity. I pulled my credit report. I printed bank statements. I made copies of mortgage documents and insurance. I changed passwords on my personal email and opened a new bank account at a different credit union. I started sending part of my paycheck there. I stopped arguing. I stopped explaining. She mistook my calm for weakness and leaned into it. She'd smirk and say, "See? You know," in a hush. I let her believe that. Funny enough, the last romantic moment we had was also the moment I realized she didn't love me. She loved control. We went to a little jazz night in Atlanta because she wanted pictures. She wore a dress that made everybody look, and I was proud for a second because she was my wife. The sax player did a slow song, and she pulled me close and whispered, "Don't mess this up," like I was a prop, not a partner. I tried to joke, "I'm the best accessory you got." She laughed, kissed my cheek for the crowd, then stepped back and immediately started texting somebody else. I stood there holding air. The comeback twist started with a boring Tuesday. I took a long lunch and met with an attorney in downtown Decatur. I brought my folder like I was going to job interview. The attorney, a black woman with calm eyes, listened without judgment. She didn't hype me up. She didn't promise revenge. She just said, "We can protect you." She explained filing first, freezing certain accounts, documenting the credit fraud, and how to legally separate finances. I left her office feeling sick and relieved, like I'd finally taken my hand off a hot stove. That same day, I went to Home Depot and bought new locks. I kept acting normal at home. I even laughed at her jokes. I cooked dinner twice that week like nothing was happening. She was nicer when she thought she was winning, so she softened just enough to get comfortable. Meanwhile, I lined up my ducks. I scheduled a locksmith for Friday morning when she'd be at her cousin's baby shower in Jonesboro. I moved my important stuff into a small storage unit in Tucker. Documents, family photos, my grandma's watch, my laptop. I made sure the mortgage payment was set, but I removed her access to my personal accounts. Quiet, clean, legal. Friday came. She left with her mother early, laughing in the driveway. Ms. Loretta waved at me like I was a waiter. "Don't burn the house down," she joked. I smiled like a fool on purpose. The locksmith arrived at 10:07 a.m. and changed every exterior lock. I also added a keypad lock on the back door. Then I walked room to room and breathed like I was in a new house. At noon, I drove to the courthouse and filed. File first, not out of spite, out of survival. The papers felt heavier than they looked. The attorney filed an emergency motion related to the credit cards. The funny part, if you can call it funny, is she still thought she was in charge that evening. She came home in a loud mood, talking about how everybody loved her outfit. She tried the key. It didn't turn. She tried again, harder, like anger could fix metal. Then she knocked, confused. I opened the door just enough to talk. She started yelling immediately. "What the hell is this?" I told her calmly, "We're done." She laughed like I was joking. "Boy, stop. Open the door." I said, "You can't live here right now." She tried to push in. I stepped back and closed it. Locked. My heart was pounding, but my hands were steady. She called her mother, and within minutes, Ms. Loretta pulled up like it was a rescue mission. They both stood on my porch yelling insults at the door. "Useless," my wife screamed like it was her favorite word. "You ain't nothing," Ms. Loretta added. No remorse. Not one why. Not one let's talk. Just rage that their control had been interrupted. I didn't argue. I didn't plead. I called non-emergency police, explained there was a domestic situation and I needed a civil standby. When the officer arrived, he told them they need to leave and handle it through the court. The look on my wife's face wasn't sadness. It was shock that consequences exist. Karma didn't wait long, and it didn't come from magic. It came from paperwork. 2 days later, the credit card companies contacted her job because the applications tied back to her work email. She'd used it, careless and entitled. Her supervisor called her in, and she tried to blame me, but the signatures and IP addresses didn't lie. She didn't apologize. She texted me, "You set me up," like accountability was my fault. Then the bank investigation started, and the stress she'd been handing me got handed right back. She lost her job quietly. No viral moment. No big scene. Just an email and a locked badge at the office. She tried to move in with her mom, but Ms. Loretta didn't have room for her pride and her temper. The next hit was the apartment denial. Her credit was tangled with mine, and once the fraud dispute started, things froze and flagged. She kept calling me from unknown numbers, cussing me out, leaving voicemails like angry mixtapes. "You think you winning?" she'd say. "You still useless." No remorse, even when her life was tipping. Her family didn't soften either. They kept calling me names and threatening to expose me, but there was nothing to expose except the truth. I stopped letting them use me. Meanwhile, the court ordered temporary financial separation, and her access to my money ended like a light switch. She didn't suddenly become kind. She just became loud. My transformation didn't look like a movie. It looked like peace. I kept going to work. I paid my bills. I worked with my attorney and a financial counselor to rebuild my credit. I started going on early morning walks at Arabia Mountain, headphones in, breathing like I had lungs again. I cooked for myself and realized my food tasted better when I wasn't swallowing stress with it. I laughed more. Real laughs, not survival laughs. Malik came down from DC one weekend and helped me repaint the guest room. We cracked jokes the whole time, talking trash about my sad beige walls. It felt like friendship was medicine. Months later, I ran into her at a Target in Decatur. She looked tired, not humbled, just irritated at life like always. She saw me and rolled her eyes like I was still the problem. No apology, no regret, nothing human. She said, "You happy now?" I said, "I'm peaceful." That seemed to annoy her more than happy. She started to say something sharp, but then her phone rang and she snatched it up like a lifeline. I walked away and realized I didn't feel a thing. Not hate, not longing, just distance. That's the private when nobody can take. The moral lesson is ugly but simple. Love without respect is a slow kind of violence, and staying quiet doesn't make you noble. It makes you available to be used. I learned that boundaries aren't punishments, they're protection. Filing first wasn't revenge. It was choosing myself before I disappeared. I didn't need to embarrass her back, because life handled what disrespect created. Job loss, instability, consequences that match her choices. And I didn't need a spotlight to be successful. My success is locking my door at night and sleeping through it. My success is laughing again and meaning it. My success is being treated like a person, especially by me. If you enjoyed this story, please like, comment, and share this video with your friends. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a powerful story drop.